often enough, when you invest time or money into something, it can get a little hard to let go. If you're in a situation where you've invested a lot already by financing a project or putting effort into a relationship, for example, giving up could mean that you'll never make returns on that investment. Now, how can these sunk costs help you make decisions for your projects? That's what we'll be looking at in today's episode. Hello, I'm Bir, co-founder at Jexo, where we make work management effortless, fun, and accessible to everyone through educational tools and awesome products. In this YouTube series, we look at popular project management concepts, what they mean, and how, when, and why you should use them in your projects. In this video, we'll be looking at sunk costs and what they are in project management. Also, why they're important and how you can use them to your advantage. So stick around. So, sunk costs are expenses you've already incurred and that you simply cannot recover. To give you an example, say if you already paid for a movie ticket. You know very well that you won't be getting your money back for that ticket, whether you end up going to the movies or not. That is a sunk cost. And sunk costs can affect your decision-making process quite a bit, which is why they're important to consider. So if you're debating whether you should continue investing in a project, you'll need to consider the sunk costs you've already invested in. If they're more than the potential benefits of continuing with your project, then it might be easier to just abandon ship. Sunk costs are important because they help you make better decisions about the future. When you know how much money you've already put into something, it's easier to figure out whether or not it's worth investing more. For example, if you spend $100 on a concert ticket, you're more likely to go than if you'd only spend $10 on it. The sunk cost has already been paid, so it would make sense to go ahead and just enjoy the concert. You can use sunk costs to your advantage in two ways, financially and psychologically. Financially, by using them to make better decisions about your investments, and psychologically by using them to help you make decisions that aren't influenced by emotions. For examples, suppose you've invested a lot of money in a project and it's not going well. You're more likely to continue investing in it if the sunk costs are higher than the potential benefits of abandoning it. That's because you don't want to lose the money you've already invested, even if the project is no longer viable. Sunk costs can also be used to your advantage psychologically by helping you make decisions that aren't influenced by emotions. For example, if you're considering whether or not to break up with your partner, the sunk costs, example, time and energy you've already put into the relationship, can help you make a decision that isn't based on how you're feeling now in the moment. You're more likely to break up if the potential benefits of doing so, like for example, being happier and more satisfied in another relationship, are greater than the sunk cost. As I mentioned before, sunk costs are expenses that have already been incurred and that cannot be recovered. So if you've already paid for a, say, non-changeable plane ticket to Hawaii, but decide that you don't want to go, the money you spent on that ticket is a sunk cost and cannot be recovered. Take another example. Alice is a project manager who has been tasked with limiting the costs on a new project. The project has a fixed budget of, say, $10,000 and needs to be completed by the end of the month. Now, Alice has already sunk $2,000 into the project, and she knows there will be additional costs added before the deadline is met. She must also consider $3,000 in fixed costs for renting the space and for bills like electricity or water. Alice knows that the company board will want data, which is what she's offering them. She explains that she's already sunk $2,000 into the project and that the future fixed costs will total $3,000. So far, she only has $5,000 in variable costs out of the $10,000 project budget. This information will help the board make an informed decision about whether or not to continue with the project. Alice also recommends ways that the board could reduce the project spending. For example, she suggests looking for a cheaper rental space or renegotiating prices with the service providers. The board can decide on what's best for the company's bottom line by analyzing the project's sunk cost. To give you an idea, these are typical examples of sunk costs. Buying a car that you cannot afford, or paying for gym membership that you never use, or pouring money into a business that isn't profitable. So sunk costs play a significant role in business and decision making. They also affect your emotions. For example, let's say you've invested a lot of time and money into a project and it's not going well. You might start to feel like you need to keep investing more just to break even. That's because the sunk costs influence your decision making and make you feel like you must continue. It's like when you keep investing in a project or relationship even though it's not going well, just because you don't want to waste that money or time you already put in. And so, avoiding this sunk cost fallacy when making decisions about your business is important. It makes no sense to continue just because you've already invested in something and your feelings. It's not enough of a reason. You need to be able to objectively assess whether or not your investment is still worth it. Sometimes you'll find that the cost of continuing is greater than the benefit, which means it's time for you to cut your losses and move on. Making business decisions based on evidence rather than sunk cost can make the difference between success and failure. So remember, when in doubt, always ask yourself, is it really worth it? So avoiding the sunk cost fallacy when making decisions about your business means that you're able to objectively assess whether or not your investment is still worth it. Sometimes you'll find that the cost of continuing is simply greater than the benefit. That's when you cut your losses and move on. I really hope you found the everyday life examples in this video useful for seeing how opportunity cost applies in a real world. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, subscribe.